Humans really like to keep doing things that we know and that we know that we do well. And so putting us in an environment that makes us uncomfortable is not pleasant. So you have to make yourself feel a little unpleasant. And
hey, Jeff, try doing the show with Brian all the time.
Hey.
Welcome to iAccess VO with Brian Fischler and Ed Klumacher. Making it happen with VoiceOver accessibility. And now, here's Brian and Ed.
Welcome back to yet another episode of iAccess VO. Ed, there's something super about today, and it's not our recording.
What do you mean it's not our recording? Give me a break.
Hey, our recordings are always super. It's a Super Bowl Sunday, though, so we're going to get through this real quick.
Okay, then get moving.
Now, so who do you like in the big game today? Got to ask you that.
I don't know. I guess I have to go Patriots. It's God, Belichick. This is his 10th Super Bowl, and this could be Brady's 5th Super Bowl win. I mean, 10 Super Bowl appearances. This is Super Bowl 51. That means he's been in almost 20% of all the Super Bowls.
It's unbelievable. It really is remarkable. We are witnessing greatness. I mean, they've been great for 16 years. What have you done for 16 years? I didn't mean that to be insulting.
No, it's not insulting. I have to think for a second. I've been losing my vision pretty well for 16 years.
Oh, you're the best. Yeah, no, you and me both there. So, but no, it is remarkable. I just want to see Goodell have to hand the trophy to Belichick and Brady. I think that'd be awesome. And I just want to see a great game, because I know I ain't tuning in to watch no Lady Gaga.
Yeah, I know. So, I don't know. You know what it is? And everybody makes such a big deal out of the commercials, Brian, but I can't see them, so I don't know what the hell's going on most of the time. So I don't even bother anymore.
Nah, I could care less. But one thing I do care about, though, is Facebook accessibility making another run at making images more accessible to blind people. You hear about this one, Ed?
You told me about it, and I know we've had some strides on this, and we've talked about it in some past episodes over the past year. But so what's so big about this update? What's going on?
And this is nothing major, but it is nice. It at least shows that they're not just resting on their laurels, because for months now we've had where it's two fat faces and outdoors, two faces and outdoors, and.
You're thinking of Big Face in the camera app on the iPhone.
Yeah, Big Head.
Large face.
Big Head from Silicon Valley. Great show if you haven't seen it. But no, they're getting more descriptive. Where now I believe their photo recognition is going to be recognizing certain activities. So for people that actually move, like play tennis or something, it might say two people playing tennis or something, which is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. For years I just skipped over all the photos. Now I'm at least pausing to see if there is some description to them.
Yeah, who knows? If this really catches on and everybody starts doing it, you might eventually open up that Instagram account.
That's right. I did post on Facebook recently because all of a sudden I started getting a ton of, hey, Brian, why don't you join Instagram and check out my photos? And I had to point out to the sighted public that the best part of being blind is I don't have to sit through hours of people's photos of their kids and their vacations. It is a plus.
I guess there are some perks, huh?
There are, but it's interesting because Facebook, I noticed this update due to a Facebook accessibility post on Facebook, and it was interesting because there are a lot of people out there like me who said, that's great, Facebook, but what's going on with Messenger? What's going on with simplistic updates, such as having all your buttons labeled? So it was nice to see I'm not the only one that's calling Facebook out in the areas where they are failing, which are some basic areas of accessibility when it comes down to buttons being labeled that were labeled 2 updates ago.
Yeah, the thing is, there's not enough emphasis on the details and the finer details of making sure all those little things are closed up. And, how about some quality control? How about hiring that accessibility staff we've spoken about? And let's get it right and let's get moving.
Dot your I's and cross your T's, Facebook. That's all we ask.
You sure you got that right? You almost got it back.
I almost. Well, I'm verbally dyslexic, so.
If the problem is if you cross your eyes, you still can't see.
Exactly. Good point. Now, Ed, do you have a go-to OCR app?
Well, yes, of course. My go-to OCR app is the KNFB Reader, which I think the two of us both purchased last summer when it was on sale, which was awesome. But, and then there's always, let me see. Which one was the one that would read to me sometimes? Was it TapTapC would read a couple things? I can't remember. That was your mom
when you were a little kid.
Oh, that was true too. Yeah. So, but I guess it is the KNFB Reader. That is my go-to OCR app now. So, I did use Text Grabber for a while, which is okay if you're low vision because you can, line everything up and get it done. But you always have to have a Wi-Fi connection of some sort.
Just so we can confirm for our new users, you are not a 14-year-old girl, right?
Last time I checked, no.
So I'm assuming that you are not a Snapchat user then.
I do not have a Snapchat account.
I don't even know what it is.
I do not have Snapchat installed on my iPhone, and I've never Snapchatted at all. Although I am keeping track of the IPO coming out for Snapchat because they are going to go public, and I've seen how these things work. When Facebook went public, their stock didn't do too well in the short term, and then just rebounded dramatically. So, this is the wave of the future. So if you're going to invest, you got to keep your eye on these things.
Yeah, but we're not here to help people with their portfolios. The interesting thing, the reason we're talking about Snapchat is there was an interesting blurb that they are starting to enter the OCR playing field.
Yes, real world recognition with OCR, which would be pretty awesome. That's the one thing. When you're traveling about, sometimes if you could just take a picture of a sign or a picture of something quickly and have that work out for you, that would be awesome.
It's interesting because that's one of the biggest negatives about the whole Facebook photo recognition is it won't read any text to you. So.
And that makes no sense to me because, it doesn't seem like it would be that difficult. And that's what people do. People always put like these sayings up or these quotes. And, I still have enough vision and I can make out that it's beautiful, well printed and laid out. And it does, but I can't quite make out what it is unless I really want to blow up my screen and try and sort through it, which, I just don't have any interest to do that. If it would read it to me, I'd pay more attention.
Yeah, so would I. But we'll have to see. We're going to keep our eye on this, and hopefully, who knows? Maybe before long, we'll all be using Snapchat because who knows? It could be the fastest way for us to OCR something for free. And
so you can fantasize about Snapchat.
Oh, I like the potential segue because I was going to go with, what I love most about Super Bowl Sunday?
What's that?
We're only 10 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting.
That's it. That's right.
And why?
Quickly.
Why is this important to us? Because we are launching the first iAccess VO Fantasy Baseball League. That's right, baseball fans. We had great success with the iAccess VO Football League, even if a Canadian, Nick, won it and everything. That was an embarrassment for us American football players, but no, Nick did a great job, and Nick's a good friend of the shows, and we were happy to have him, and we had great success where everybody stayed active. So we're trying the same fantasy baseball, 12 teams, and if you're interested in getting in, even if you're a first timer and you've never played, we'll give you a little help getting started. Everything is completely accessible thanks to Yahoo. It's free. Just shoot us in an email at iaccessvo@gmail.com. Let us know you're interested in getting in the Fantasy Baseball League. It's first come, first serve. We've already got about 4 or 5 people in the league, so about half the league is still open, and I'm looking forward to it. Fantasy baseball is my favorite greatest waste of time. What's your favorite greatest waste of time, Ed?
I don't really think I have too much of a favorite waste of time. You know what I like to do? Sometimes I just like to sit down, relax, and listen to some good old blues music because you just gotta unwind sometimes. So that's how I waste my time.
Wow, you're putting me to sleep there, Ed.
Well, that's the purpose. Sometimes we go. We just got to slow it down sometimes.
You know, I set you up for the greatest segue where you could have said, well, my favorite waste of time comes in March.
Well, what I was gonna say before you started was that as far as the fantasy baseball league goes, I'm actually on the fence for this one. I may jump in on it, but I was very excited because you also told me that our friends at Yahoo are coming out with an accessible bracket for March Madness for college basketball, which is, my favorite sport. Being an alumni of Villanova, my Villanova Wildcats won the championship last year, and they've been number one for a good part of this season. So I'm looking forward to getting in some March Madness.
It's funny because I know nothing about basketball, and I used to do the brackets all the time.
I thought you were going to tell me you knew nothing about college.
0.0.
I'm just
fat,
busting.
drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, Mr. Blutarski. Greatest comedy of all time, Animal House. If you haven't seen it, see if you can get it with described video. Very funny movie. But no, brackets. I used to do the brackets all the time, even though I knew nothing about basketball, especially when you're working in corporate America. March Madness is a great way to get some camaraderie at work and have some fun, talk a little smack. So I was real excited when I heard from my guy at Yahoo recently, for the first time ever, their brackets will be completely accessible to VoiceOver. So, of course, Ed, just for you, we're going to launch an iAccess VO March Madness tournament as well. So that'll be coming in March, man. We've got a lot of things going on here.
Very good. So our listeners, if they want to get in on March Madness, send us an email at iaccessvo@gmail.com. Put March Madness in the subject heading, and we'll get you that information so you can be part of the experience.
Yeah, no, it's got a lot of exciting things coming up regarding baseball as well as basketball.
And so, hey, I see that the iOS 10.3 is going to start asking you to do reviews on apps there, Brian. What do you think about having the intrusion every time you want to open up an app? Sometimes it comes up, but I think it's going to be much more often.
Yeah, we're pro podcasters asking people to leave reviews and ratings because that's the only way we know the show's fantastic. But, for every app, isn't it annoying when an app pops up and it says, rate us in the store, and you click no, and then the next week later it asks you again? Isn't that just make you want to rip your hair out?
Yeah, because you could say not now, and it comes up just as often as if you say no. So it is intrusive already. I can't imagine how much more intrusive it could get. I mean, if this happens every time I open up an app, that's going to get pretty annoying.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand when we took this. We went from every time you call customer service, you get an email about having to leave a review about their service. It's the same thing. It's like, I have a job. I have stuff to do. I don't have time to be doing your quality control. But I'll tell you what, Apple, if you're going to do this, why not do it to your developers too? And before they could post their app to the App Store, have a little pop-up say, you need to make sure that your app is accessible.
Well, what might be good about this is that if it's not accessible, I think that, our blind visually impaired community should jump right on it. Good. Let's leave a review. Go right there and say not accessible, and then they'll get the message really quickly.
Yeah, have you done that before though? Have you posted a review of an app? And because I've done that, where I've written your app is not accessible. I've written it several times to ESPN, and they just don't care. So I think it really comes down to the company. When you're a scummy company like ESPN, that is just the lowest of the low. I mean, they're like in the fifth ring of hell. ESPN, they're not going to care, but maybe a socially conscious company might.
I really hate when you hold back.
Hey, do you know how hard it was to get through that diatribe without any four-letter words?
Keeping the podcast clean.
PG, baby.
There you go. So, hey, some other news here. This was kind of interesting, and it's been coming. It was announced back in the fall of 2014 that Apple wanted to move from the 32-bit architecture to 64-bit architecture. But apparently, with the new iOS 11 coming out, 64-bit apps 32-bit apps will no longer be able to be run on iOS 11.
Yeah, and I've gotten, every now and then I open an app and it says this app may slow your phone down. You know what I'm just recalling? I was trying to remember what apps I saw that in, so I just realized this is going to be a major problem for me because both my college football listening and pro football listening app that I've had for years, where I can access every game, are 32-bit apps.
Ooh, and I know last at the end of last summer you were worried about them not working any longer, and you were pleasantly surprised to see that they were. So I guess if you start the season with them, but as soon as you update to iOS 11, they no longer will work unless the developers turn around and redo them.
Yeah, and these apps haven't been updated in years. So that just dawned on me, man. This is I don't know. I at least tune in now, so I may end up buying a tune-in subscription to get those pro and college games for 3-4 months out of the year. Yeah, so at least there are other alternatives, but I've been very fortunate where I paid 99 cents for those apps, and they've worked for a good 5-6 years. What was more shocking to me about this is that the iPhone 5 doesn't seem that long ago, or the 5 was it the SE?
The SE just came out last April. The SE runs on a 64-bit architecture, but yeah, the 5 and the 5C and any phones before that all run 32-bit architecture, so they will not be able to upgrade to the new iOS 11. Same thing with iPads. Any iPads before the iPad Air, and then the first iPad Mini will not be able to upgrade to iOS 11. So you're starting to see the product obsolescence built into the software, into the architecture, and we're going to be saying bye-bye to some of that old hardware. It'll work for a while, for a year or two, but it's going to get slower and slower, and eventually you're just not going to be able to get to run the applications you want to run, so you'll be upgrading your phone or your iPad.
Well, the iPhone 5 won't be able to run the new operating system.
Right, but it'll still run iOS 10.3. But that'll be it. That'll be as far as you can go on the iPhone 5.
Yeah. In a few years, you got to think these things. The time windows where these things work are going to get smaller and smaller because of the advancements in chip technology and other advancements in technology. So I think this is more disappointing to me because at first I was like, well, I don't have any apps that aren't going to, until I realized it was my college football and pro football apps that.
Hey, you know what? And that's the bottom line, Brian. Technology is moving at such an incredible pace now. There's so much stuff coming out. There's so much stuff available to us. And, fortunately, we have an excellent guest getting ready to join us here because he is so well-versed in the world of adaptive technology. And I think we should bring him on and really get a good conversation going here with our friend Jeff Bishop.
Yeah, let's go out to Arizona.
Awesome.
Now we'd like to welcome in a guest who, if he's not familiar to you, you must be living with your head in the sand. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jeff. Welcome to iAccess VO. Great to have you on.
Now, Jeff, a lot of people know you from Main Menu, ACB. You're all over the map and everything. You've actually been working with screen readers since 1987. That's a long time. Would you have ever thought that people that are blind and visually impaired would have this many choices when it came to a screen reader?
Well, actually, I started using screen readers even before that. I started with a Commodore 64. I actually started with a Radio Shack color computer back in the early 80s and didn't find that would work very well. So I bought a Commodore 64 and did a lot of programming and used what it really wasn't a screen reader. You didn't have review commands to review the screen really, so it was almost like command line everything.
How awful was the voice on that Commodore though?
It wasn't horrible. I mean, I think that the Echo Voice was actually worse on the Apple. But we're talking about a lot different, technology there too. So I did a lot of work on that, and then when I started working in 1987, that's when I actually got my first PC and started using JAWS for DOS and Vocalize and all that on the DOS platform, and started working as a programmer and working on mainframe technology at that time. So that goes pretty far back. As far as where we are today versus where things were back then, I don't think anybody really guessed where we would be today. The internet really changed the world as we knew it. Windows, especially Windows 95, when that came out in 1995, really changed the paradigm. And then, of course, when the iPhone came out, that really changed everything. So I don't really know that we know where we're going to be in 10 or 15 years from now either. I think that the world is constantly changing, and technology is a really neat place. And I do think that if we're going to have another major shift in technology, that it seems that accessibility always takes a little bit of a step backwards when that happens. That happened when the iPhone came out. That happened with Windows 95 when that came out. It took a little bit of time for the AT vendors to ramp up. So we may see that again, but who knows? I mean, that's why technology is so great, because we're able to really just keep seeing change in our industry. And for those of us that really live and breathe this stuff, it just keeps us going, man.
In 10 to 15 years, they better have all blindness cured.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Jeff. So you are very versed in all the different aspects of assistive technology and adaptive technology. But do you have a favorite go-to platform that when you have to get a project done or a job done in a pinch? I mean, what is your go-to ecosystem that you like to live in or work in?
Well, for mobile, it's iPhone. It's iOS. For desktop, it's still Windows, because that's primarily what I use at work, and because I have to do a lot of work even at home for work, that's primarily where I live. Although I have a Mac, and I actually have a Mac at work as well. In fact, I run Windows inside of VMware Fusion, and then I have a Microsoft Surface tablet, and I have a Lenovo laptop, and then I have an iPad and my iPhone and Android device, and so I'm all over the map. You better not
get mugged on the way home from work.
No, I don't take a lot of that stuff home all the time, but so primarily it's Windows for me for the majority of the things that I do, but I also live in the Mac space as well a lot.
Yeah, we've heard you discuss, a lot of exciting things are happening with Windows Narrator. I personally feel Narrator has really closed the gap with VoiceOver. What are you most excited about with Narrator and the coming updates?
Well, let's take a little step backward here and talk about where Microsoft was in the last year. It's really exciting to see them truly innovate, and I don't mean to say this as a knock on Apple, but Apple is very closed in reference to them talking about the future of product. They don't really, or even the current, process of how they do things. Whereas Microsoft is probably the most transparent technology company in our industry right now. They'll tell you anything, really. Their Twitter presence is really spectacular. And in the last 12 months, we've seen a major shift in Narrator. Now, I remember back in the 90s when there was discussion about, well, should Microsoft get into the screen reader business? I don't know if any of you were around back then in reference to that, but that was a big deal. The AT vendors really got upset about that because well, of course, you're taking
bottom line,
off the table. Yeah, exactly. And now that we have NVDA and we have really one one company now driving most of the AT business in the United States, VFO Group, which, by the way, I think was a really good thing. We can talk about that if you want. So I think that the situation is now different. And I think that Narrator has come a long way. I still think it has a little bit of a ways to go, especially for people in corporate environments and situations where they need to provide some customization and flexibility in, say, call center environments or environments where you really need quick access to things. So for example, scripting that Window Eyes and JAWS and even NVDA has. So I think it has a little bit of way to go, but I'll tell you, it's a great start for Microsoft. It really gives you can pretty much do anything you want on your machine with Narrator today, including a lot of the new modern apps work very well with Narrator. There's a lot of tremendous new voices that are now available. And
I love the voice. Yeah, that was something when I started learning NVDA, I couldn't get rid of that NVDA voice fast enough. I can't handle it, and I put in the Windows Narrator version. And I heard you say Microsoft has a great Twitter presence. Do they have a Narrator-specific Twitter account that you know of?
No, it's just their MSFT Enable account, so they tweet about everything on that one. And so that's how they're handling that. They don't break it out by specific disability, for example, or specific type of part of their accessibility story. Now they do have Twitter accounts for, say, Office and OneNote and all of that. And by the way, not only are they doing great things on the Narrator front, but they're doing great things across all of their product lines, including Office 365 and Microsoft OneNote. In fact, this year in January, they just released a version of OneNote that's now accessible on iOS, which is fantastic, as well as on the Mac. Now, the Mac one's been out a little bit longer, but that's truly tremendous because we have not had a cross-platform note-taking experience, like Evernote, that we can use. And finally, we have one. And they're really working hard on the Windows version as well. So it's just really neat stuff to see where they're going, and they're working at at a lightning speed pace. It's amazing to see how much innovation has happened even in the last 3 months, to be honest.
That's the one thing I'm really liking with the development of things recently is that there is a lot of ability to go cross-platform now because you can use Google apps on your iOS devices. You can now have Microsoft 365 and use Word on your iPad. I mean, all this is just making it so much easier to just interface with so many different applications and so many different people and so many different work environments. It's really making it a lot easier for those that require accessibility.
Absolutely. And Google's also doing a lot of really great work. In fact, just recently, at the end of January, Google released Chromevox Next, which is the next generation version of their screen reader for Chromebooks. And I had an opportunity in December to go out to the AFB Train the Trainer event that Google and AFB put together.
Yeah, I had actually put in for that. I never heard back from anybody because I saw them looking for people who wanted to attend, and I said, "Oh, I'll send this in." And it's like I never heard from anybody.
Yeah, and it was a really great experience, and they have been listening a lot to the community, and a lot of the changes that they implemented were due to that fact, and I'm really happy to see that Chromevox Next is where it is now.
And Ed didn't get his invite because it was guilt by association. All the things I've said about Google, I think they associated you with me because we know they're always listening.
Well, let's be fair here. Google is, and I think a lot of it has to do with the culture of Google. I think they definitely are moving at a different pace than, say, Microsoft is, for example, or Apple is. It's not that they're not making an impact, because they are, but it just doesn't seem to be as quick of a change, that Apple and Microsoft are making. But I don't want to make that sound like they're horrible or something, because they're not. I'm just it's just that it's interesting to see how much of a focus. I mean, Microsoft, they've been going nuts. I mean, in fact, I could probably safely say that Microsoft is innovating much quicker than Apple is at the moment. However, they've had a lot of catching up to do too.
And didn't Microsoft beat their initial deadline by 6 months? Wasn't it supposed to be January 2017? Or did I miss something? And because I know their first impressive update to Narrator came out in June of 2016, and I thought that deadline was originally January of 2017.
Well, they put out their roadmap, over a year ago, and so the roadmap covered the whole year. But they work off of the Windows upgrade cycle. So Redstone 2 is coming out, or the Creators Update is coming out in April, and that's what they're marching to right now, which we should talk about because there's some extremely impressive things in that.
That's the calendar where Christmas occurs in August, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's going to be another update later this year too. So Redstone 3, we don't know what that will be called as far as the public facing, name, but the inside code word is Redstone 3, and we know that we'll get more accessibility in that one.
You have any insight or update on what's going on with Windows Creator?
Yes, I think this is a really neat update coming, and I want to focus on one major change that Microsoft is making, and I think it's a very significant change for those people who are blind or visually impaired who go out and do consulting, and that is that for the first time ever, Microsoft is making the out-of-box installation experience fully accessible. So what does this mean? It means that for the first time, you'll be able to turn on your computer, and if the drive may not even be formatted, and boot from a Windows USB stick, and to be able to get Narrator through the entire process of even formatting the drive, partitioning it, installing Windows, getting up and running, all the way through the entire experience without anybody's assistance. Now, the only caveat to this is that you need to make sure that your Windows machine allows for you to boot from a USB stick during the boot process. And a lot of machines are not set up that way, so it may require a little bit of visual assistance to make that happen. But it's a very minor change and takes 2 seconds to do once you're in the BIOS. But once that's done, it's truly an accessible experience. And really, honestly, this was one of the main reasons that a lot of people went over to Mac, to be honest with you, was because they did not have a way of reinstalling their operating system independently, which you can do on the Mac. And so this is why also a lot of people have used things like VMware Fusion to install Windows, because you can install Windows independently that way as well. So this is a major, major change.
Yeah, no, it's just been impressive what they've been doing and how public they've been making everything, and just you'd never see Apple. In fact, I couldn't remember the last time I've really even heard Apple talk about accessibility. I know there was that brief video, I guess, at their thing, which wasn't accessible on their own website. But no, Microsoft has been very public about it, which has been very impressive to me.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Apple has been on some podcasts, and they've also attended the ACB conference and presented at our conference all about the Apple Watch when that came out. And that was wow, that was an amazing event. That room was just jam-packed. And then Sarah presented at the convention on the convention floor as well and talked about Apple accessibility. So they get around, but they're not as visible as, say, Google or Microsoft are in making public appearances in venues. And, Microsoft has 16 sessions at CSUN, and I know Google is making an impact there too. And I don't know if Apple has any presentations lined up or not. I haven't, to be honest, even though I'm going to CSUN, I have not looked at the schedule yet. Yeah, I'll get into that this week.
I don't think Apple usually has any kind of major presence at CSUN, but
no.
the one thing that they have been able to do is that they've impacted the way things are done in the industry. I mean, who would have ever thought that Microsoft would turn around and give Windows 10 upgrade for free like they did? I mean, that was a dramatic change in their whole economic plan.
Well, absolutely. And if it wasn't for VoiceOver on iPhone and on Mac, you wouldn't see Narrator where it is today either.
Right.
I really strongly feel that way, that I think Apple really pushed the industry as a whole. And for that, I am, very, very grateful for them doing that. And, I think the future is bright. I think that, we have the greatest access to things we've ever had in our lifetimes. And I think it's only going to get better and better. It's really a fun time.
I'm curious, with all your experience and knowledge, do you have a preference to operating built-in screen reader, operating system built-in screen reader, or really just a program-specific screen reader, or does it vary at times what you prefer to use?
Well, okay, so on the Mac, of course, my only choice is VoiceOver. And on iOS, of course, that's true too. On Windows, I have... I have 3 installed, and 4 if you were to include Narrator. And depending upon what I'm doing, I'll switch to all 4 of them, to be honest. Mm-hmm. There was a time when Clarence Wiley was alive. Do you remember him?
I do not know him, no.
Okay. Clarence Wiley worked for GW Micro, and he was responsible for training and some sales work and other things there. And he was an amazing man. And I remember going to CSUN one year, and we were all in there listening to him talk about Windows. And then he was done, and he said, "Okay, now I have a question for all of you in the room." Everyone was like, oh, wow, I wonder what he's going to ask. And he said, "How many of you own a copy of JAWS?" And back then, the industry was very cutthroat. I mean, if you think it's competitive today, it was really that way, back in, 20 years ago. And everyone was, "Oh no, we're strictly a Windows, group here." And he said, "Well, I want all of you to go downstairs and buy a copy of JAWS." And everyone was like, "What? What are you saying? What are you, And he said, "Listen, we do not have all of the answers. And it is important that you have as many tools in your tool belt as you possibly can. And that you need to be an expert in those tools so that you have the ability to adapt in whatever environment you're in." And at my work at the university, I tell students this all the time. I said, "Listen, you're only going to be as competitive in your academic work along with your cited, peers as much as you are an expert in your tool set. You have to do that because they can use, their vision, and they don't have to worry about screen readers, but you do. And so it's important that you master the tools that are given to you. And if you don't, you're not going to be as competitive in your work. That's just a fact. So not all screen readers there's not one that will meet all of the needs of everything that's out there today. It's just impossible. For example, I will use Narrator for modern Windows apps a lot of the time. These are apps that are not standard desktop applications. Like for example, the new Mail application that's now available in Windows 10. That's a modern app, and there's more. There's also OneNote is a modern app. The Groove application that sits on top of Windows 10 is a modern app. There's a number of them, and there are more and more of them that I'm starting to use. And so I will tend to use Narrator with those because I find it to actually be the most flexible, and it's actually the easiest to use with those applications. On the web, I will use NVDA or JAWS because I tend to find them to be the most flexible with the web, and it's also what our students use. And then I'll also use Windows as well. In fact, I'm a Windows scripter and have a lot of scripts up over on App Central.
Now, you mentioned VFO a while ago. You said, I thought when the companies all merged that was a sign of impending doom, but you seem to have, I guess, a more positive outlook on the merger.
I do, actually. I think that it's probably the best thing that ever happened to our industry. I think that it's really great to see all of the great minds of the AT vendors that we've worked with now for decades coming together in one company. Now there's always going to be every company is run differently. When AI Squared bought GW Micro, I'm sure there was a little bit of that in that circle, and now you have it with VFO Group. So you have Doug Joffre, you have Eric Damery, you have Glenn Gordon, and frankly, those three people, we would not have the tools and the technology that we have today if it weren't for those three people.
With so many screen readers at our fingertips, what does Jeff Bishop do nowadays when he encounters a website or an application that just does not work with any screen readers?
Well, I think this comes down to advocacy work. I think you need to try all of your tools and make sure that there isn't an answer that you have in your tool belt. But then you need to approach the developer of whether it's an application or it's a website or whatever the case may be, and you need to talk to them about where the deficiencies are in their product, and work with them, educate them on the web content accessibility guidelines, if it's a web application, and even WCAG 2.0 AA really does apply to mobile applications as well. So, just educating them, talking about where they need to make changes in their products, talk to them about the importance of accessibility, talk to them about the numbers of people that have a disability, whether it's whether you're blind or visually impaired or whatever the case may be. I mean, there's millions of us, and that's important stuff. And it's not hard, especially on the iOS side of things. Apple makes it really, really easy, and Microsoft is also making it a lot easier as well. So it's all about educating and doing it in a way that's not confrontational. It's important that we do this in a way that educates and promotes a friendly environment to work together, because that's what it's all about. We don't need to run around and yell and scream at each other or rant and rave. Now, I'm not saying that lawsuits aren't important, because I think that they are at some level, but I think we also need to start by working together.
I need to quote Dalton here from Roadhouse. Be nice until it's time not to be nice.
Well, right, exactly. I mean, we at ACB believe in structured negotiation, and it's worked well for us. And I think that it's something where you really sit down and sit across the table and talk about the issues, and you work. And we do the same thing at the University of Arizona, where if a department wants to buy something that's not accessible, well, then we'll put language in the contracts that say, listen, okay, we know you're not accessible today, but you're going to get there if we're going to buy your product, because that's what we mandate. And
we've had Lainey Feingold on as well, and that's
she's great.
Yes, and I love her approach to dealing with accessibility, and I think she gets more progress done with her methodology, and it just seems to work better when people can sit across the table and have real dialogue and come up with real solutions.
Well, I mean, baseball season's coming, and every time baseball season comes on and I open up the At-Bat app, I always think of Lainey and ACB's work and Brian Charlson and others who have been very key, influential players in that space who truly made the difference to allow us to have thousands and thousands of hours of entertainment in our lives. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
You probably don't have the time, but we just, in this episode, actually, in the first part of our show, announced we're launching the first ever iAccess VO Fantasy Baseball League, as we had a lot of success.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you want to get in, we'll get you the details. But
do that. That would be great.
Yeah, it's through Yahoo, which I've worked with Yahoo for, 2 years now. And we're also very excited. We announced for the first time ever, this is just being announced, that I'm not a basketball guy, but the college brackets game through Yahoo for the first time ever is going to be completely accessible. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, March Madness is coming and it's going to be accessible. I'm excited about that one.
We'll be launching a league for that, which will be completely free as well. So we're excited because, like I say, man, there's nothing like fantasy. It's the world's greatest waste of time.
Well,
and I'm good at it.
In my world, so I love it. And of course, we got the Super Bowl coming out later today.
Yep.
So life is good, my friends.
So let me ask you a question, Jeff. Listening to you on the different shows I've heard you on and things like that, I know that you are an Android user, and Brian and I joke about Android a lot because this is, we are primarily a show that's more geared toward voiceover, and we've joked with Brian going to the dark side in the past and things like that. But to satisfy our one Android user, could you tell us what do you like most about the Android platform?
Well, I like the openness of it. I really, really do. And I think Android has come a long way. I think, in fact, I would safely say that if you're not a Braille user, that Android is probably a platform you should take a look at. I don't think that the applications are as polished as they are on iOS, for example. And I think that has a lot to do with the openness of the architecture of Android. But they've come a long way as far as accessibility, especially now that they've really worked hard on their WebView experience. I think it's a platform that people really need to start taking a closer look at. For me, my phone and my tablet are tools for me, and so I have to really pick the platform that I use most often to be the one that makes me most productive. And for me, that's still iOS. But that may not be the case for someone else. So I think that we all need to, if you haven't decided on a platform, and I don't, there might be one of you out there, but but if you haven't, or it's time for you to upgrade and you want to look around, I think you should take a look at it. And plus, I've spent literally thousands and thousands of dollars in the App Store. And my wife would freaking killing me if I got rid of my iPhone because I would be dead.
I can't say
you'd never hear from me again.
Hey, Ed, that may be the tease to the show.
There you go. Hey, you know what though? It's like being an adaptive technology instructor. A lot of clients come through for training and things like that. And I have to say that the Android platform, I remember seeing it most of the time. You would see it because of the economics, because it was a lot cheaper to buy an Android phone, and it would give them give clients accessibility, and that's what they had. But I've seen the progression over the past 3 years and how much it's developed and improved. And it's what started out as an economic thing is now turning into a preference for a lot of people.
And to be fair, I did test Android. It was a year ago. So back then, a year ago, the web. Exploring the web was awful on it. I know it's gotten a lot better. And also, you can't dive into Android coming from iOS, at least back then, and maybe you could correct me here, flicking around. It's more explore by touch. I don't know if that's
it's more
changed.
Explore by touch. Yeah. Now, you can flick more now, but, it's... the only way to do that, if you're truly wanting to investigate Android and you were an iOS user, you need to put your iPhone in its box and put it in the desk. No, I'm serious. You need to put it in a box and leave it alone for about 3 months and use your Android device solely. That's what you need to do. If that's truly what you want to do, is to try to figure out if Android's right for you. You cannot let your iOS device be your crutch, because if you do, you're always going to go back to it.
So in other words, you're saying that you really have to have an affair with Android, because I sleep with my iOS device.
Yeah, so do I, actually. Yeah.
So that's real, and that's really the only way you're going to learn a new screen reader. It's how I learned the Mac. You have to just shut that device off, and you're going to have to spend sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day learning that new device, getting used to it, putting in the time. That's like anything. You want to learn a new language. You want to learn. it's screen readers the same thing. You know, when you're going to these new devices, you really have to throw yourself fully into it.
Same thing with when I was transitioning from magnification software using ZoomText to JAWS. ZoomText always became my crutch. It was, I would think I was being quicker just grabbing the mouse and going back to ZoomText, but in reality, all it was doing was making me feel more comfortable.
Well, I think it's what we're used to. And we humans really like to keep doing things that we know and that we know that we do well. And so putting us in an environment that makes us uncomfortable is not pleasant. So you have to make yourself feel a little unpleasant. And
hey, Jeff, try doing a show with Brian all the time.
Hey, you want to talk about comfort? I'm used to pizza and nachos. You put me in a gym for 6 hours a day, I'm going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, there you go.
But so now you're an IT. What's your exact title at the University of Arizona there?
I'm
Jeff?
an IT accessibility analyst.
What does that do on a day-to-day basis over there at the University of Arizona?
Well, so the University of Arizona really started to see a need to make accessibility awareness more of a focus at our university. So they already had a pretty strong team there, and I was working at the university as a developer for about 12, 13 years, and I decided, well, if there's a job offered, I'll jump at it. So I moved over there, and basically what we do is we work with faculty and students and staff to make sure that all of the products and services and programs that we developed are accessible, whether it's web applications or desktop applications or materials that are used in the classroom. We even make sure that those are accessible, including science and math and all of that. And I also, because I do have that developer background, I tend to work a lot with both vendors as well as our internal IT staff across the university, where it's very interesting there in that it's all decentralized IT. So every department has its own IT structure. So it makes it kind of difficult. But, I'll work with them on website accessibility training to teach them about how to develop accessible web applications. We talk about applications that they're developing that are desktop based, although we're not seeing many of those anymore. Pretty much everything has now moved to the web. And we talk about technology that they're putting in the classrooms. And, right now we're talking a lot about these emergency boards that are all around our campus and making sure that those are accessible, because, they'll put up information up on the screen and it doesn't talk.
Yes.
And, so that doesn't work too well. So we're working on that problem.
I imagine all the signing up for courses, you oversee making sure that whole process is accessible?
Yep, absolutely. And enrollment and our learning management system, we use D2L as our LMS of choice.
Well, I'm sure a lot of your students are happy if you can make sure that the cafeteria menu is accessible.
Well, wow, that's really interesting that you bring that up. That came up too, in that not all of our vendors had accessible menus, so we had to talk to them about that too.
Yeah.
And we put them online, and so, but we have a lot of the vendors that are in our student union are fast food places, like Burger King and other places like that. So you can get those menus from the Burger King website itself because it's all around you. So a lot of them were
15,
accessible. Yeah,
it's not healthy when you're in college.
No, not at all. Yeah.
But
Panda Express seems to be the favorite of most students, apparently.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people that may not have ever had the experience at a major university might not realize this. A major university is kind of like its own city, and you're really dealing with every aspect of accessibility there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's definitely like a little village. I think it's very interesting. I mean, we're dealing with all aspects of it, so it's quite fascinating, and it's interesting to see the computers that students bring to the university, and what AT exists on them. I had a student that had JAWS 10 on a laptop. Like, well, this isn't going to work. So, we had to figure out what were we going to do to really get them up to a more modern version of JAWS, because a lot's changed in 8 releases. So, it makes it really challenging in how we put students in the best place to be able to succeed in their environment.
All this interaction with all this technology you work with and the developments that go on, and it's moving at such a fast pace. What does Jeff Bishop want to see for the balance of 2017 in terms of assistive technology? What are you looking for to see change or come out?
Well, I think we're going to see continual improvement both on Apple and Google and Microsoft. I'm hoping to see a lot more improvement on the web from all 3 of these companies. I think that's where we need to start looking at next, from a standpoint of ensuring that if you're using Google Docs, if you're using Office 365 on the web, or if you're using Apple's iCloud products, that these are truly a very efficient and productive experience for users, regardless of whatever screen reader that you're using. And I will say that Microsoft and Google have made tremendous strides in this area, but I still think that there's a ways to go. And I think that's going to be where we need to start focusing next. I think that the desktop experiences are really solid. I think Office 365, especially on the desktop, is where you want to be. I've talked a lot about this on other shows, but if you're a Microsoft Office customer and you're not on Office 365, by all means, please get there and sign up for it. It's the best $99 that you'll ever spend a year on a product.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
I subscribe to it, and you pay that you get the home version for $99. So you have 5 members of your family can all have access to it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the day when you would go buy Office at, say, Costco or whatever, and you'd spend $400 for one copy, which gave you a license to put it on a laptop and a desktop, and that's it.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And sure, it might last you 2 to 3 years, but man, I didn't normally have $400 in my pocket to spend on Office.
Well, Jeff, some people paid that $400 and it would last them 15 years because they're still running Microsoft Office.
Oh,
2003.
Listen. Yeah, I was just going to say I've seen people running Office 2003 and yeah, that's pretty scary.
Well, I got to really commend Microsoft in playing well with Apple, because as of Microsoft Office 2016, everything for the first time as far as Office became accessible on the Mac side, which was very, very nice.
Yeah, that happened last year around August, September timeframe. And so, yeah, it's fantastic. In fact, we meet with Microsoft on a quarterly basis to talk about, or actually monthly in this case, about Office and where they are as far as Windows and Mac. And man, the amount of progress that they're continuing to make. I love Outlook on the Mac, by the way. I don't know if you've ever played with it. It's fantastic. It's really, really good.
I've yet to play with it. I've been so tied up in the Apple side of things and just having all Mac-specific devices that I haven't needed it, with iCloud syncing. But now that I am diving out, in fact, I've yet to play around with email on the Microsoft computer I'm playing with, but that's the next step. So I'll probably be diving into Outlook and everything. So I'm looking forward to that, as long as it doesn't leave me pulling the last remaining strings of my hair out. So
yeah, I have the same problem. And also Outlook on iOS. If you have not downloaded that and taken a look at it, it's really my client of choice now as far as email clients on iOS. It's fantastic. I actually like it even better than the standard iOS mail client.
Oh, fantastic. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
Jeff, I do want to ask you one question with your interaction with Microsoft, and I haven't really done a lot with this. How is the speech recognition development going? Is there a lot of progress there? Is there a future there?
Honestly, I have not put a lot of focus into that, but it's an area that I know that Microsoft has put a lot of attention into. They've done a lot with it, and but I honestly have not done a lot of work in that space.
Yeah, and I only brought it up because I was checking through their accessibility stuff again today. Because one of the things I wanted to check out, I don't know if a lot of visually impaired blind users are aware, is that if you use assistive technology, Microsoft is still allowing us to upgrade to Windows 10 for free.
Absolutely.
So, I'm going to drop that link in our show notes. So if people have not made that move yet for whatever reason, they can still do that. If they're not aware of it, they can still upgrade for free.
I will say that there have been a number of, and I'm going to rant here a little bit. There have been a number of industry publications who have abused that link for regular individuals, and shame on you, people. That is not what it's intended for, and I do not read those sites. If I have seen links on their sites for that, I have banned them from my RSS feed reader, and I will not read their sites. If that's you're punishing the people who it's intended for, and frankly,
it's the equivalent of telling people your dog's a service dog when it's not. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep.
It's just, come on.
It's unbelievable.
People never cease to amaze me. But, you've got so much going on, Jeff. What's the best way for people to keep up with, what you have to say, and what's going on in the world of Jeff Bishop and assistive technology?
Sure. Well, you can follow me on Twitter. At Jeff Bishop on Twitter, JEFFBISHOP. Or you can email me, jeff@jeffbishop.com. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I can't promise that I'll be very, very quick at it, but I will definitely get back to you, and would love to help you out as much as I can. I've really enjoyed being here, guys. Thank you so much.
We've enjoyed having you. This was a big treat for us, and it was nice to kind of get more. Obviously, you're more heavily involved on the narrator side of things than most of our guests, as well as the PC side of things. So it was really nice to get your perspective on things there, and it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to see how things break out.
Jeff, it's always a pleasure. It's great to have you on the program. You've got a great perspective on things, and you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so happy that you're out there and you're willing to share it with everybody.
Absolutely. Let's talk again when iOS 11 nears its debut, and see how that changes the world, right?
You're listening to Brian and Ed on iAccess VO.
Ed, it's funny. I thought I knew a lot about assistive technology, but I'll tell you what, there aren't very many people out there that know as much as Jeff. That was an absolute thrill to have him on the show.
Yeah, no, when it comes to adaptive technology and it comes to advocacy, I don't know anyone who is as well versed in both those areas as our friend Jeff Bishop.
Yeah, and I didn't know he was such a big sports fan. Always love talking to a fellow sports fan. So, but one thing that's pissing me off, because we always learn there's something that's getting underneath my skin, is I had to send a check to my mom the other day. So I went on to Citibank's website, and guess what? They broke accessibility once again. So blind people now cannot access any of the second level functions on a Mac with Safari. I tried it in Chrome. It wouldn't work. And they broke all accessibility with the iPhone app when you go to sign on. Have you ever gotten one of those things where you get to a screen on an app and all of a sudden all you're seeing is the status bar?
Yeah, a couple of times. So they not only broke accessibility on the website app, they also broke accessibility on the iOS app.
Yeah, now I'm able to see at quick glance, like my last recent transactions, which is great because that's what I need to make sure people aren't stealing my millions of dollars. But when I go to sign into the app so I can access, more transactions further back or any of the second level functionality such as sending money, you can't log into your account on the iPhone anymore.
Oh man, that would drive me insane because I do all my banking online. Fortunately, I've been with Chase for a long time, and I don't think I've had any issues with them on iOS or on the computer for at least 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, Citibank has just an awful. They keep doing this, and then I tweet into them, "Oh, we're here to help you. Fill out this form that's not accessible."
Yeah, no, it's. I've been with you when you've gone to their branch over there on 23rd Street, and it's usually you walk in, and instead of heading right for the ATM, you're always heading inside to talk to a teller.
Yeah. Well, I'm still not comfortable. Have you ever used an ATM with headphones? I have never tried that.
I got to tell you, Brian, I have not, and I do use the Chase ATM, but I can only use it in certain locations because I still have enough low vision that I can make out the patterns on the screen, and as long as they don't change, the patterns, I'm okay. But it has to be on an ATM that is not near a window or anything like that. It's dark enough that I can I put my card in. I know what I'm supposed to hit. I know what buttons to push and the order of things. But if they ever make any major adjustments, I'm going to have to go in there and have a sighted assistant show me how to go through it again.
Have you ever accidentally sent like $1,000 to Pakistan because you thought you pressed a different button on the ATM?
No, I've never done that, but I've done stupid things like put my credit card in there when I thought I put my ATM card, and I'm like, what's wrong with my account number? It's not working. For the most part, it's okay. I've done dumb things like take more money out than I wanted or less money than I wanted, but just a little bit off on hitting the button. Like instead of being 4 inches up, I might have been 5 or 6 inches up and hit the lesser amount. But
my toughest part about the whole ATM experience back when I used to use them was, and this is when I walked with a cane, was telling if the machine was occupied. I can't tell you how many times I walked up and whoa, all of a sudden my cane is between a woman's legs because I didn't think there was anybody standing at the ATM. We got security is always at the forefront, and sometimes you just got to use common sense, and this was something that happened to a sighted buddy of mine, and we thought we'd share the story with the podcast because sighted people can be cruel, mainly to mostly other sighted people. We were all out at a bar, and one of my friends just decided to leave his phone sitting on the bar for other people to pick up and have some fun with. And another friend decided to log into his phone because he noticed his password and pull up his Facebook page and liked, I'm going to keep this PG. He basically wrote that it was time for him to admit to his friends and family how much he liked clown genitalia, but he used another word for genitalia, and he comes back in and sits down, and all of a sudden he's getting messages right and left from Facebook from his family and friends. And people, if you're going out in public, be careful where you set your phones and computers because people will mess with you, right, Ed?
Yeah, I think I told you this happened. A similar thing happened to my son. He was in the Marine Corps, and he got called out by his NCO from his room, and he left his computer logged on, and his buddies went in there and did something very similar. And he was actually stationed over in Okinawa at the time, and I'm sitting in New York, have my computer on, and I'm going through Facebook, and all of a sudden I see all this stuff coming across on my son's Facebook page. I'm like, What? So it can be, some people might think it's funny. I realized it was a joke. I realized something was off right away, but not everybody realizes that Facebook posts can be sarcastic, or they're not being posted by the original person. So you do have to be careful and guard.
Well, especially, if you're, a lot of blind people hang out in Starbucks, and, you can be working on your laptop there, and you never know. Somebody that just might have a sadistic sense of humor like myself, but I'm blind, so I'm not going to find somebody's computer and post something on it. But you got to be careful. And, that's one of the great things about having the screen curtain on these devices. And that's why I do like it. Anytime I'm out in public and I'm using my device, and I figure, hey, if I can't see it, neither should anybody else and everything. And just be smart. Keep your devices. If you're going up to the counter, you might want to just grab that laptop, or if you got a lock and you can lock it to the table and everything, be safe, because there are a lot of pranksters out there. And this was pretty funny, how quick it all was.
Yeah, but it says a lot to me. That's why I use the fingerprint ID to log into my iPhone all the time, because if you're a VoiceOver user, if you log in with VoiceOver on, people a lot of times can hear your code. So it's something you don't want to do.
Look at it this way: this guy just saw this guy's code from sitting next to him during the evening, from logging in. So yeah, it's. And I don't know if he didn't have a fingerprint. I don't know if it was an iPhone or a Droid device. I just know it happened so unbelievably quickly. The borrowing of the phone, the posting, and then this other guy getting responses from family and friends. And then you hear, Foley! There wasn't even like a second guess about who did it. That was the amazing thing, and it was great fun for the rest of us. But
oh yeah, but I'm sure the next day he had a lot of conversations with a lot of family members and friends saying, no, that wasn't me. yeah. So immaturity runs. Dude, I could be 80 and I'd still be immature and doing stuff like that. I guess we mentioned a couple times, let us know if you're liking what we're doing, if you're not liking what we're doing. If you got some suggestions for topics or anything you'd like us to talk about, hit us up at iaxisvo@gmail.com. Tweet us in at iaxisvo. And Ed, you got a Facebook and a phone number for them? Yeah, sure. We have the Facebook page, and we're getting some nice likes on there, and people following us there. So it's iaxisvo on Facebook, and you can always give us a call at 732-660-8641, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and I guess we've never really mentioned this. If you're listening and you just happen to have an extra $1 million laying around, we could use it. Feel free to send it in to us, okay? Nothing less than $1 million, though. Nothing less.
Yeah, we'll get some new equipment.
But I guess for now, Ed, it's off to the Super Bowl, because we are out.
You have been listening to iAccess VO. If you'd like to contact us with ideas and suggestions for future podcasts, please email us at iaccessvo@gmail.com or visit our website at www.accessquest.org.